Welcome back, everyone. Well, many of us, I think, can say that maybe we've had a person in our life, and we're lucky. We've had at least one person in our life who was an influence on us in a positive way, that they gave us the sense of self-esteem. They gave us self-confidence. They kind of guided us in that wonderful way that a mentor does, in not dictating to you what to do, but sort of guiding you. Well, my guest today is a friend of mine, and also someone who's about to receive the annual Woman of Influence Award here in Saratoga. But more importantly than that, the reason why she's getting that award is that she's been a terrific influence on a lot of people. So join me in welcoming Gayle LaSalle. Hi, Gayle.
Hi.
Nice to have you here.
Great to be here. It's fun.
Gayle does have a daytime job, by the way, that involved in City Hall, where she works with Mayor Joanne Yepsen, which is actually, I think, how we first met.
Yes, it is.
Because we've been involved a lot with the issues over in City Hall. But lo and behold, Gayle, you know, the more I got to know you and the more I found out about you, just the more impressive you are, the more impressed I was in what you were doing. Gayle, and I want you to tell us about this stuff, but I want to set it up for our audience.
Okay.
For the better part of 13 years, Gayle worked with addiction, and she worked with people facing addiction and helped them get through that. And for many years, she was involved with child welfare workers. You're driven to help people. And there's a person who's central in your life that made it this way, right?
Yes. I think I've always moved towards the helping professions. No matter what I do, I keep coming back to that. But you're right. To be someone who can influence other people, I really think it's important to have had someone in your life who was incredibly influential. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was my tante.
Tante, which is your aunt?
Yes, my aunt.
Yes, right.
Yes.
And tell us in what way?
Well, I've shared with you that I didn't grow up in a house that was, common sense was the norm. In fact, it was very chaotic. And I was incredibly fortunate to go to college very close to my tante. Mm-hmm. And got very close to her while I was there. I would spend time with her. Mm-hmm. And to this day, she is probably still one of the most influential people in my life.
And it was because I think what I was saying, and it was funny when I was explaining to you about mentoring, I was lifting something that Gayle had said to me, that, you know, it wasn't that she dictated to you what to do. It was almost, I think the phrase you used was that it was only later on that you realized yes. her approach was really so beneficial in really nurturing you, right?
She would give you, well, she'd tell stories, and that was part of the way she would help. But she would ask questions and not tell you what to do. She would just simply put out ideas, and all of a sudden you'd go, oh, right, yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. And you'd start to use them. So for me, it became not wanting to tell people what to do, but to help them recognize what their options were in life, and then help them figure out which one was best for them, and then let them go and, mm-hmm. and do what was right for them.
Well, the word that you used before we went on air, which I want you to talk about because you really, it's central to your life. The idea that as an individual, we always have choices.
Choices.
Right. So
my favorite word in the world is choices. And I think one of the problems that many people have is that if their first choice is not on the list, they start to think they don't have any choices.
Yes, right, sure.
And it doesn't matter. We always have a choice. We don't choose what happens to us. We don't choose what happens around us. Mm-hmm. We always get to choose how we deal with it. Mm-hmm.
Now, you've sort of encapsulated that around the phrase, I'm the boss of me.
Yes.
I love that
yes.
line.
It's the tagline I use. It's my website. I use it because I am the boss of me. I get to choose. Mm-hmm. And that's what gives me the influence, is I allow other people to choose. I help them recognize that they need to choose, whether it's been through my speaking, whether it was when I was working with clients who are suffering from addictions and getting well. Mm. I help them recognize that life is a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. You know, when you think about that, if you get to the point where you don't think you have a choice, then depression, despair,
Absolutely.
that sets in because you feel like you're fenced in and you have nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. You always have someplace to go.
Yeah. Well, I've seen people who have that horrible phrase, I have no choice.
Yes, right, right.
And they are unhappy people, and they're frustrated people. Mm-hmm. And they continue to do the same thing. We used to use a phrase in the addiction world, if you continue to do the same thing, you'll continue to get what you always got.
Yes, right, sure.
When you start to do something different, then you get different results, and life becomes more open.
Now, from your experience, that first step is always a hard one, right? You're trying to break habits.
Absolutely.
You're right. And what advice do you give people?
Well, can I just share a very quick story
sure,
with
of
you?
course.
And that was my daughter. And I've shared with you that I lost the love of my life 10 weeks before we were supposed to be married 14 years ago. And very quickly, my daughter sat me down one day and looked at me and said, Mama, you've always talked about choices, but you're not making any. You're miserable, you're unhappy, you're angry.
Right.
And to make it short, she looked at me, she says, I think you have two choices. You can use the gifts you got from that relationship and do something with them, or you can be miserable for the rest of your life. What do you want to do? And it was my aha moment. It was the time where I realized everything I'd taught people I wasn't using. I was just angry. And it changed me, and it changed what I want to do in this world. It made me want to help other people realize that even in some of the worst moments of your life, you can look at it. You choose how you look at it.
Right, right.
Choose how you want to view it. I could look at that as the worst thing that ever happened and continue to look at it that way, or I could be grateful that I ever had it. And
Yes,
then,
right.
and really use those gifts and say, I have a choice.
You know what? I think that's the ultimate lesson in life.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, that you do have the choice, and sometimes when you're confronted with an absolute crisis and a personal tragedy, you know, what are you going to do?
And you see so many people do that, horrible tragedies, and they turn it into something good. They turn it into something positive. They do something wonderful with it. We've got so many examples right here in Saratoga Springs of people who've done that, raise money after a tragedy instead of wallowing. And I think that's a choice that makes us so human, is that we have those choices.
Yeah, I do too. You know, we did an interview just this past week on a musician, Ron Sturgis, who fell on really, really hard times, and the community rallied around him, just rallied around him, you know, and actually helped him make a positive choice. Gayle has written a book, Pearls From My Tante, which is about her aunt. And I scanned through this book just before we went on air. It's just a wonderful little read, you know. And that's a wonderful tribute to her.
Well, she is by far the most cherished person in my life, has been now for, I don't want to tell you how many years, because that would give away, but she is truly a gem. I'm so glad that I've gotten to write it and that I've been able to share it with the world. Because if I do anything, if I influence people in any way, it's just that how you look at life makes a difference on how you live life.
And hopefully you become the boss of me, right?
I will never be the boss of you. I only want to be the boss of me.
You know, you would definitely not want to be my boss. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm sure they'd agree in the control room. So congratulations on winning Woman of Influence Award. It's being, there's a luncheon tomorrow.
Yes.
There's 5 women in the community. And let's give a quick shout out to Amy Ramo over at Saratoga Hospital, because she nominated you.
Yes,
she wrote
she
a
did.
very beautiful nomination letter, whatever
Yes,
that
she
is that
did.
they have to do in front.
She's
So
also another cherished human in my life. So.
absolutely.
Yes.
Well, great that you came in. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And
This has been great.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.